In the past, humans, in order to have a chance of surviving against bears, would go up against these wild giants not just with bows and arrows, but even barehanded. Believe it or not, they would even pull out and tear apart the bear's teeth, claws, and tendons to bring them down. The question is, was this battle really fair? Could humans actually overcome bears as massive as mountains, or did the bears, with all their might, crush people? Today, we want to dive into this deep and bloody secret. Let's start with a bit of imagination. Let's imagine on one side, there's a man weighing over 90 kilos or 198 pounds who's a professional athlete and can lift 270 kilos or 595 pounds. He's trained for 6 months to get his body ready and has spent a lifetime learning martial arts. Still, compared to a bear, his body is much smaller, much weaker, and slower, and he doesn't have natural weapons like teeth and claws. On the other side, there's a grizzly bear that weighs up to 350 kilos, or about 770 pounds. It has big teeth and its bite force is over 8.3 megapascals, or 1,200 pounds per inch. This bear can push a heavy metal trash can forward like it's a toy, or lift 270 kilogram rocks with one paw to check if there's food underneath. On top of that, it can run at speeds over 50 kilometers per hour, or about 30 miles per hour. In a situation like this, a human basically can't do anything. The only thing that might work is to punch the bear in the nose or try to aim for its eyes. But the truth is, the chances of these things actually working are very, very slim. So maybe it's better to get the idea of defeating a bear out of your head. Or maybe you could trick the bear by playing dead, making it think there's no longer a threat so it stops attacking. Still, let me tell you something quite strange but truly remarkable. Despite the fact that taking on a powerful bear doesn't seem logical or even remotely sensible at all, there have been individuals in the past who deliberately put themselves in a direct fight with a formidable bear. And quite surprisingly and unbelievably, in some extraordinary cases, they even came out completely victorious. Well, first of all, people would typically go after the bear's arm tendons to significantly weaken its overall strength. These are the tendons that allowed the bear to lift its arms and throw anything in its way. They would tear the bear's tendons and then go for its claws, pulling them out so that the bear's paws would become almost defenseless. Finally, they would also pull out the bear's sharp, large teeth, which could rip through human flesh in an instant. Even so, the bears were still strong and could crush people in a fierce battle. I mean, to put it simply, the truth is that even without teeth and claws, a bear can split a person in half like a dry branch. All it has to do is charge at a person, and that's the end of it. Besides, removing a bear's claws doesn't take away from the power of its blows. For example, imagine putting a key between your fingers and throwing a punch. Obviously, your punch would be stronger that way, but even without the key, you're still punching and fighting. In any case, people weren't just sitting around doing nothing either. They did their best and had their own tricks. Once, an old hunter recounted that when a giant bear lifted him up, he shoved his hands into the bear's eyes with all his strength to defend himself and save his life. There's another story from a different hunter who used a Bulgarian method for hunting bears. In this method, he would wrap his left hand with lots of leather, let the bear bite that hand, and then, while the bear was distracted, he'd attack it with a big knife. So, even though the bear is generally bigger, faster, and stronger, in these situations, a human can use their intelligence to find the bear's weak points or a way to escape from it. For example, while a bear can't climb a tree without its claws, a human can take refuge at the top of a tree, and then, with a bit of luck, maybe distract the bear by finding a beehive and luring it away. Jokes aside, even bear spray these days can be effective without causing serious harm to the bear. But overall, let me put your mind at ease. The number of deaths caused by bears is even lower than those caused by lightning, and even less than by pet dogs. So, if we enter bear territory with caution and respect, we'll almost always come back safe and sound. Now, let's talk a bit about the historical records that exist regarding battles between humans and bears. Various sources have mentioned that in the past, during traditional shows with animals, including bears, to prevent danger, the animals were often rendered disabled or defenseless by pulling out their teeth and claws, or by cutting and injuring their tendons. In fact, in ancient civilizations like ancient Rome, battles between humans and wild animals such as lions, tigers, or bears were held in arenas like the Colosseum. These fights were mostly for show. Sometimes they were carried out as executions, or even just for entertainment. It's interesting to know that in historical records from 16th and 17th century Europe, especially in Shakespearean Britain, bear baiting shows were held, and even places in London like Bear Garden in the Bankside area were officially built for such performances. In these shows, a bear would be chained to a stake in the middle of the arena, and then dogs, usually bulldogs or mastiffs, would be set loose on it. Sometimes other animals or even people would be pitted against the bear. Meanwhile, the spectators would excitedly place bets on who would win. In medieval Europe and the Soviet Union, bears were also trained to dance or perform human-like actions, and to control them, hot rings were used, or similarly, their teeth and claws would be pulled out so they wouldn't pose a danger to the trainer. In this way, bears were subjected to severe torture and control. When my team and I were reading about the battle between humans and bears, we realized that the struggle between humans and bears truly reflects the depth of human determination in the fight for survival. Humans fought for survival with whatever tools they had, even when they were empty-handed. But on the other hand, making animals defenseless by pulling out their teeth and claws and injuring their tendons seems unethical and against animal rights. But what do you think? Do you think such hand-to-hand battles between humans and animals could still happen today? Or are these just stories from ancient legends? Is it fair to torture and disable bears for entertainment, competition, or shows? Be sure to write your opinion in the comments, and know that your comment will definitely be featured at the end of the next videos. Remember, these stories remind us that from the very beginning, humans have always faced nature with fear, excitement, strength, and skill. But sometimes, in trying to tame the creatures of nature, we've acted quite selfishly. In any case, every battle, whether with giant bears or with life's challenges, teaches us an important lesson: how to respond with strength and intelligence in tough situations. Alright, as I said at the beginning of the video, let's read a few of your comments together, and I'm looking forward to seeing your comment under this video as well.